So at the beginning of this symposium, I talked a little bit about how one of the most important things I do is MSAP. And the reason is that when we train people and they train more people and they go off and do more things, that has just an incredible impact. And so we're super excited to have Shadrach here as our keynote speaker. Shadrach was in the program sitting where you guys are in 2012. He worked with Hakan Ozener while he was here. And then he went on to win the President's Prize at the University of Pennsylvania. With that prize, he went on to go back to Ghana and start a girls' school and a health clinic. So the President's Prize is only given out once, and so you need money to sustain that. And so he developed an entire economic model to sustain that. People noticed what he had done in that small area, and people in the country wanted him to do that elsewhere. So he did that elsewhere. And then people in other countries saw that and wanted him to do that in their country. And so he went on to do that. And then the United Nations noticed this and asked him, how can they do this in more places? And then the Queen of England noticed this and awarded him 6 years after he was an MSAP with, I'm sorry, I got to get the name of this right. This is the Queen's Young Leader Award. And he has also won the Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Award. He's won an honorary Doctor of Science from the Royal Holloway University of London. And he has an MPH from Yale, is a PhD from Cambridge, and then most recently has returned back to Yale to get his medical degree. He's really a superstar, and we're so excited to have him here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. I mean, you could imagine my expression when that picture came up. I myself have never seen that picture. That's so interesting. I was like, oh, yeah. I'm so excited to be here. MSAP holds a very special place in my heart. And you would find out why. So I'm coming all the way from New Haven, and there was a neurosurgery observation overnight, medical school. Those of us here who have kids and who are doctors, or those who are doctors yourself, clerkships is another whole story. So I'm coming on the red eye after observing an 8-hour, procedure, but I'm still pumped because it's Monell. And Monell laid the roots of, for me, who I would become. So I came, and I think it's, Dr. Mainland has spoken a bit about my background. I grew up in, the rural parts of Ghana. Any of you been to Ghana? Anybody here? Okay. Do you have any African in the room by chance? Okay, yeah. So I grew up in Ghana, about 8 hours out from Accra, on the outskirts, very rural area. I saw electricity when I was 15. That was the first time I left the village to go to high school. My parents are farmers. Spent my childhood working on the farm, fishing. To me, it's nothing special than what most people in rural settings like that, how they live. So I just try to really make the best of my childhood. Even though when later I went to high school in the city, I realized, wait, that's quite an interesting childhood I've had. But I would say my parents made sure that we really enjoyed it. And, it became a big part of who I was and who I've been over the years. So from there, I went to, high school in the city, and then God was good. And then I took the SATs, did well. Now coming to Penn, and then I was like, oh, it would be nice, if I were to get some scholarship, do some internship and all of that. And then the US Embassy was like, okay, you have to spend your first year at Fisk University, which is a wonderful HBCU in Nashville, Tennessee. So I spent a year there. And then after, you're going to move up to Penn. Now, the summer in between those programs, I was like, well, I need something to do in Philly during that summer. So I applied to so many labs in Philly, so many programs, and Monell was the only one that gave me a shot. And I was an international student, so I also understand how difficult that was going to become. And for me, coming to Monell, look, I'm a guy that's coming from the village, first in my community to ever study in the US. My siblings, our 4 sisters were 2 boys. my idea of, coming to America is just like, just go, work hard. If you're lucky, somebody employs you and maybe you can make some money and send some back home. That was my mindset coming to the US. And it's so interesting because my dad nearly blocked me coming to the US. He was like, I don't believe these Americans are going to give you full scholarship. Why would they give you free money to go to school when our own in-country universities will not give you funding? Are you sure it's not modern day slave trade? He literally told the US embassy to give him a strong reason why it's not modern days, like they're not sending his son on some slave something. You can't blame him. I mean, his parents have never been to school, first generation. So finally, I made it to campus, and I'll never forget. And I share that to say that my self-esteem was probably like down there, if it even existed. My only esteem was from a sense of I'm smart. And that's something that my father put into me. He's like, we grew up in the village. I remember when the high school exams came, he looked at it. I got A's in all of them. In Ghana is 111. STEM subject, I scored first in all of them. And I was so excited to tell my parents. He said, well, that's baseline. You come from me. You can't do anything. That's standard. And so I knew it gave me that confidence and self-esteem that I was smart. And that's all I had. I didn't know how to apply it. I didn't know how to apply it in the settings when I meet people. And that's when Monell became that defining factor. So that summer, I worked with Dr. Hakan Osner. And if any of you have had a chance to meet Hakan or work with Hakan, one word, no nonsense. So I remember there was another student in the lab, didn't really enjoy that, I loved it. He was like my father all over again. Listen, Hakan would say, Shadrach, I'll see you in the lab at 6:30. I'm like, but the program says we are supposed to be there like 8 or 9. I don't care. You get there at 6:30. And then it brought out my competitive self. And he was watching very closely. I'll never forget. First day, 6:30. I thought I'd go here early because 6:30 he has to come and open me and get me in. And I thought, we had a lab postdoc. And now he's a medical doctor, Bilal, I remember. And, I thought Bilal was going to come and open me. So I get there, literally 30 feet in market. That's when I came, I first went. They brought me up here. And, okay. And I got there 6:30. I thought I was on time. And then I got there, and then Hakan said, I've been here for 30 minutes. I said, well. We're on to something here. And so, but that was that whole summer. If I start, this experiment around like maybe 4, it's going to finish around like maybe at best 8 p.m. It's like, well, so what? You stay. What I'm trying to share is that it's a whole different mindset. And for me, the most important part of that is kid from rural Ghana, had no family in the US, thought I was my own. Somebody believes in me. That was everything. That's all I needed. Like, it was like it flipped a switch in my brain like this. And I went to Penn. That's how I got the President Prize. Because when we finished MSAP and I was going, Hakan looks at me, he's like, I think I've taught you what I needed to teach you. I said, yeah, that was a very good, the way we did the experiment. And no, that's not what I'm talking about. Mindset. And Hakan, you look piercing into your eyes. I wish he was here. He'll look piercing. He's like, your mind, that's what I'm saying. I gave you to you. And I was like, okay, roger that. So I went to Penn and I told him, I would never let anybody beat me in class. That was it. Like, I can study. To me, it's just simple. We're all given the same material and we're going to be examined on it. I can lock myself in the library in Van Pelt and study however hours and make sure I'm the best. I must either be the best or be with the best. No, nothing less. And that was a mindset that, it stuck with me. So, I will end up graduating as one of the top 5 students in my class, get the President's Prize, and go on to do all of these things. And so one of the things that I want to share with you today, because you've had a very wonderful summer, and I get this question a lot. This is like I still impulse on my 4th speaking engagement this month. I was up at Harvard last week speaking to students in their, some undergraduate minority research program. And then I was over in the South at Vanderbilt back speaking to the students there. And I love doing this because it's what made me who I am. And it's something I always want to sow in everybody that I can. I get a question a lot, how did you go from that kid, from that kind of background to go achieve all of these things, And the very answer to me, it's in a framework I've like to simplify as FIRE, F-I-R-E. Now the F is foundations, right? So you want to do great things, you want to be awesome, you want to meet a queen. Well, she's dead. You can still meet a king. Or, you want to meet the Clintons and all of that, and you still want to excel in your class. You have to focus on the foundations. You have to understand, Yale Medical School is not going to admit me if my GPA is not, like, our average GPA is a 3.89 for the incoming class. So you have to get it good. You understand what I'm saying? Your foundations. Because we're a generation that we're being told, oh, take it easy. Oh, chill. That's all right. I love you, but it's not all right. Mediocrity is not all right. I want everybody in this room to live here having a total and absolute detest for mediocrity. And it is so essential in these times that the world is in. Because the mediocre people are causing a lot of trouble. And the truly excellent people are like, oh, I'm going to be chilling and take my time. And we can't have that. And so foundations, get your foundations right. The foundations are really simple. In every situation you find yourself. At Monell, I can't set me down, set foundations, get you on time. Get your experiments in. Treat people nicely. Check in with your family. Yeah, all those are foundations. I can't only, Shadrach, have you called your parents this week? Okay, good. And then you tell me, I've called my family in Turkey, so you to call yours, okay? Okay. It's foundation. Like, so even now in medical school, as I'm choosing specialties, like the neurosurgeons are like, I was telling Paul, they're like, Shadrach, you're so smart. You should do neurosurgery. And I asked them, well, are you going to change and make sure that it will not still take me away from my family? Because that's an important foundation for me. So I have my foundation. I want to be a good man someday when I start my own family. So nail down the foundations, whatever, and in college, to me, most of you are going to college or high school. Look, it's simple. Your GPA. Get those A's in. Push yourself. You can do it. Your high schools and colleges, when I was at Penn, there was a Weingarten Center. It has resources to help you to get there. Be crazy about them, because if you're not now, they will make you crazy. Failing in them will make you crazy later. If you don't do well now and you want to go to med school, guess what will happen? You have to spend another set of years doing post-bac and retaking. Come on, you don't want that. Get it done now. The second thing for me is having a mindset of impact, because that really changes everything, and that's the I. When you have a mindset of impact, it drives you on a whole different level. Here's what I mean. When most of us think about research, we tend to think of it, and I'll share it, Paul, we tend to think about it in terms of, oh, just going to be pipetting, and then, well, I'm not going to win a Nobel Prize in medicine, so why should I bother? And people have mindsets like that. Well, and so when we think about research, oftentimes we don't think of it as something that can move the needle in society. We're thinking of, oh, taste, smell. How many people is going to impact? Well, I have something else to tell you. Most of the, awards and things I've shared over the years, and I've had over the years, it's simply because of the research I publish. And most people are surprised when they look at my Google Scholar and they're like, what? You have 15 research publications. I never tell you a researcher. I love research. And I love research because it informs policy and impact. Yes, the rigorous scientific evidence, it really does that. I have a story where during the pandemic, Ebola was sweeping across countries. And I had written a systematic review where we've, distilled insights from 896 manuscripts of what has happened in the US and around the world during the Ebola pandemic. chickenpox, SARS, HIV. We've distilled and we said in different countries what helped to stop the global pandemic each time. Because guess what? We can learn from history. If we know what stopped it, then we can use it to stop the pandemic at that time. And that's exactly what happened. It was a lot of work, but just that mindset and mind frame, worked with it with my mentor, we published. And exactly like a week after the paper was published, I got a call from Secretary Clinton. Hey, I saw this paper and I've been sending it to everybody I know in Congress. They have to read it. Because we're sending too much money into Africa and we are not finding their research centers. We need to find the research centers. They literally gave money to Nigeria and Sudan to set up biomedical research centers based on my evidence showing that when scientists are equipped, they can actually create vaccines or create interventions and medications that are actually very unique to their own settings and push them. For me, I love to talk, as you can tell. So it also got me to sit on the stage and have a nice time with Hillary. And it's opened doors for me. But when you can think of your research, your passion for your research, beyond, oh, just publish a paper, beyond, just the immediate things, then it gets really exciting because it actually can influence and change so many lives. And that's a mindset that I want you to have. Because oftentimes when we think about impact, we think we have to start a charity, we think we have to go and donate books with friends. No, your impact is the paper you're working on. It's the pipetting you're doing. It is critical. And you know why it's critical, even more than now in these times where there is misinformation everywhere. We need more people to produce evidence where somebody will look at it and be like, well, I may not be politically inclined, but I can't say I'm not scientifically inclined. I have Hakan has a quote that I literally have written and put in my room. He will tell me, Shadrach, ideology doesn't change biology. The way you can think about anything that you want, blood will still be red. Blood will not turn pink. If your blood is pink, maybe you're sick. Ideology will never change biology. So that's something for us to keep in mind, and that's the power of impact. The next thing I want you to keep in mind is, a passion for resilience. Resilience that's driven by your roots. We're all from different places. And over the summer, you've had a chance to, meet mentors and have incredible people, to work with. What did you learn from them? Like when you leave here, that's something I want you to really sit back and see, because those lessons and what begin to form a part of your roots and begin to shape you through life. I promise you, the people you worked with are not just researchers, they're fathers, they're mothers, they're sisters, they're brothers, they're also human. And as you can tell, when I was at Penn, I remember meeting a faculty member, he's like, do you know Hakan? I said, yeah. You remind me of him. I didn't know. I've literally become like a little Hakan walking around Penn. I was so intense and fiery, it's like I was like a fireball. Like I would just blast through anything and do everything. I'd taken on I just love the man and his passion for things and how family-centered he was. And that was a route I took. I did that because at Yale, we just had a recent, we just did a white coat ceremony, and I was part of the admissions committee when we were selecting students. One of the things that hurt me a lot was students from minority backgrounds undersell themselves. I could not believe it. Like, don't do that. And another thing that really bothered me was also that you could see a student who just needed a little to push themselves slightly, but then they just gave up short. And then the admissions committee will be like, med school is tough. If we admit this person, they will drop out after 1 year. Nope, we're not going to do it. And then just based on that, they'll just reject the person. So start now developing a passion for resilience. When you're working, one of the things I tell myself is, whenever I think I'm tired, I'm probably only 20% tired. It's a mental framework I have created And so when I'm working and then I feel tired, I'm like, oh, we still have 80% more in the tank. And if I have to walk around and move around and come back to do it, I do it. But quit? Hell no. I'm not going to do that. You need to develop that muscle right now in this phase of your life. You know, I know I sound like the big brother that's like saying all the things that, everybody else, the opposite of most of the things people tell you, to take it easy, to tell you to chill and all of that. But here is one thing, and a secret I've found, because that is the majority of the truth that people in our generation hear. Those of us who do the opposite, we just like we take off really quickly, right? We come out very different. And people love people like that. In medicine, particularly, everybody loves somebody that can be reliable. You're not going to let a doctor who doesn't know their stuff or who does a little bit of work and gets easily tired to attend to your parent or your loved one. No. And that's a mindset you have to keep up. If you decide to go to do a PhD, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be. I mean, during my PhD at the University of Cambridge, so many people dropped out of the program. And then you find out why, and they're like, yeah, they just weren't sure if it was what they wanted to do anymore. Come on, let's just finish the thing. In my mind, like, just at least finish, and then you have something to still, you started, just finish. Just finish. It's funny because I sit at both sides now. I got a Gates Cambridge scholarship to go do the PhD. I know what doing a PhD looks like, and then I'm doing so. I can see the clinical and the evidence side. I promise you, they all require the same kind of traits. And the last thing that I want to put out there and ties it to everything I've said, and it's a bit contrarian, is to have some form of ego. The E, have an ego. Ego is not a bad thing, though. It's just a sense of self and confidence and identity. That's why people with less accomplishments seem to be having much more. Is it not crazy? You ever sit down and think, man, I'm more accomplished than that person, but they're earning more than me. And that's one of the things Hakan taught me. I will never forget. Hakan was like, Shadrach, me, I come back from Turkey. I see in America, some people, they are not good. But they will confidently say and speak up as if they will. She said, Shadrach, these people, some people, they will literally like volunteer at the clinic, and all they did was holding the baby in their hand after the baby was delivered. They will say that they were the OB-GYN on duty. Now, that's a lie. But the point is that be confident. Have an ego. Stop thinking so much about what everybody else thinks, because nobody else thinks and cares about what you're experiencing in your life as much as you think they do. I promise you, everybody is very busy with their own life. So in this, and I'm very passionate about this, because when we look at what is happening in the world right now, ego as a tool is being used wrongly. The people that we know, the people with ego that are doing a lot of damage. But ego is it's like fire. It can cook your food or it can burn down your house. So use yours. Don't let it lie idle. If you do something great, speak up. Like, I had that experience when I was applying to medical schools. It's crazy. The first time I applied to medical school, I'll say the story. I never understood why. I had the same numbers, everything was awesome. And then I was rejected from them. Then I called back Hakan again. This is like literally, I graduated from Penn in 2015. In my mind, I have a 3.98 GPA from an Ivy League school. I've done Monell. I've done summer research in Switzerland. I've done MSAP. I have all the things I think a pre-med student wants. And my MCAT score was in the 98th percentile. So I think like, I'm good. I should be able to get in. Well, the difference was when I was applying, I'll be like, oh, it would be really nice if your school admits me. I hope I can get in. So When I got rejected from all of them, I literally got into interview and I had the same kind of, demeanor, false humility. Then I call Hakan. Hakan is like, what did you do? I started talking to Hakan. Shut up, shut up, shut up. I know why you got rejected. So second time I'm applying, I'm so confident. I will apply and I think, if you admit me, I can help your school to do X, Y, Z. This is what I'm going to bring to the incoming class. And if I'm bringing this much, I hope to also gain X, Y, Z from the incoming class. It has to be a win-win though. And it was insane. After I got accepted, I now was like choosing, I remember choosing the lady at Johns Hopkins, she will never let me forget this. We're still in touch. And she's like, you were crazy. You're the only medical admitted student that came and said, look, I'm going to keep this simple. I have my idea of how medicine should be done. Here is how I think medicine should be practiced. When medicine was first started as a specialty, the world was not as evidence-driven as it was now. And when medicine was first started as a field by William Osler and all these wonderful people, the world was not as globalized as it was. Now we're globalized. We travel all the time, and so medical, you can go to another country, you can go to Punta Cana, Mexico, and get a condition and bring it back and all of that. My vision of medicine is to create a new field of specialty called global medicine. And she's like, oh, global health, we already know. I said, no, I'm not talking about the social justice one. I'm talking about treating patients because they've crossed boundaries and factoring into what conditions, infections, and all of that stuff. Oh, okay. And I was like, but to do that, I need a lot of downtime. I need certain mentors. I want to be able to structure my education in a certain way. Would you allow me to do that without treating me and confining me to the classroom 24 hours a day? So long as I'm scoring high on my classes and everything, and I know how to do that, you should allow me to craft my education and move the way I want. I'll still love to travel and go speak because I enjoy doing that. I don't want to drop that. I have a PhD. Can I be an adjunct professor in your School of Public Health? She's like, yeah, so nice. And I said, well, you're not a fan of it. Thank you. I'm not coming. I call up Yale, and they're like, well, you have to speak to the dean, though. Funny story. I speak to the dean, and she's like, why would I object? I'm your dean, and I don't have an honorary doctorate. You already have an honorary doctorate. Do whatever the hell you want. And that was it. They gave me a full ride, and I went to Yale. I became so confident in saying that I understand the yardsticks your institution needs to meet, but I want to, come in, and I feel confidently that I have a unique gift, and I want the space to work with my classmates to achieve that. So ego is an important thing. You have to keep in mind, if you're the best in your class, don't keep quiet and hide in the corner. Speak up. Believe you're the best, and you will be. If you're going to take and study for the SAT, why hope for, now it's over 1,600? Okay, mine was over 2,400. Why hope to score at least 1,400 when the exam is over 1,600? Well, just go get 1,600. At least that try. Have an ego. Be crazy. The people that go to Harvard, Yale, all of that, they don't urinate gas and gasoline. It's urine. They're just like you and I. You have to have that innate confidence that you belong at Harvard. You belong at Yale. You have the confidence to think you believe you belong at Monell. You have to have the confidence you belong anywhere. And so that's what I'll leave you with. And, Paul and I, we spoke over the last weekend. You were sharing, I shared with him how that kind of mindset has gotten me to places sometimes. After the fact, I'll be like, whoa, that happened. And I was sharing with him how, because the previous week I was there, and then I see an anonymous number calling me. And sometimes Hakan calls me with an anonymous number, so I thought it was Hakan. Well, this time it wasn't Hakan. I picked, and it was a loud pitch voice, and it was, President Obama calling me on my personal dial, and calls me and it's like, hey, Shadrach, whatever, Chelsea Clinton nominated you for this. You spoke at this event because of the research that you talked about. And we think in this era that USAID is cutting funding a lot of, PEPFAR, HIV research, and all of these things. and a lot of research programs are taking a cut. We think your idea about how, we can get these kind of countries and communities to be able to finance their own programs and research programs and all of that, we want to support you, we want to give you the platform to push that. Now, right after I called Hakan, because it's a very emotional moment for me. And I just, in that moment, had an epiphany of that young guy sitting right there who came to Monell and knew nobody, had no family in America. I had no sense of self, no self-esteem. When this man in MSAP looked me straight into the eye and said, "You're far greater than you think you can ever be." And, if I don't leave you with anything, I hope you walk away from here with that. Because you will do so many different types of research. You meet different types of people. I promise you, some of you may not even end up continuing the research that you did. My research was on human fungiform papillary taste cells. I remember that. See? Do I still do taste cells research? Maybe not, but I make sure people can taste research. They may not be tasting, I may not be doing tasting research, but I make sure people taste research. I'm still very much involved in research programs. Now my research is obsessed with psychoneuroimmunology. My research is more asking if, you keep waking up every day and you're not structured, does it make you stressed? There's a lot of data on that. Now, if it makes you stressed, how do we confirm that biologically? Is there a rise in inflammatory markers like interferon alpha? Creative, reactive, C-reactive protein? That's the kind of evidence I look for. But it's still the same research, and it's still biological, but now connects immediately to impact. When I see patients, I'm thinking, what got them here? It's a lot. You're going to have an excellent journey ahead of you. There'll be so many people who will tell you so many things, and they will give you different ideas. But I hope you never forget your fire. Don't forget your foundations. Don't forget to do everything you do with a sense of impact. You don't need to live your passion for science and research. We all can't be standing on the streets and be screaming. It's amazing though, or be protesting. I don't do that. Because if I did that, I would lose the energy to be doing my research. In this world, we're all wired differently, okay? If you're here and you're wired in such a way that the way you actually scream and then protest is true evidence, then do it. Have a mind of impact. The last bit, and then the next thing is to be resilient. Excuses, excuses, excuses. Trust me, your reasons are excuses. Even when you want to give a reason that, oh yeah, today I called Paul when they made me do overnight. I stand at the station and they said I can get here at 2. If I called Paul and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go home and just drive up. He's like 3 hours. No, I want to drive. He's like, no, okay, we can structure things and then you can come. So you know what? Just take the train. Now my colleague who is standing next to me at the train station is like, oh, maybe you can just tell them you can come another time. Look, this is why this guy is a colleague and not a friend. My brain does not work like that. It's excuses. Okay? If you say you do something, just do it. Be tough, be resilient, have a no-nonsense attitude. And that means shy away from people that like mediocrity. You are the sum of the 2 or 3 people around you. If you have that mindset, people will not like you, and that's okay. To me, greatness, you can't want to be great and also desire to be an ice cream seller. Ice cream sellers are wonderful. My uncle is one of them. But he's busy making everybody happy. I'm not wired like that. You can't. And then the last bit is ego. Very critical. Have some. Lots and lots of it. I think I'll pause here and I'll stop. And if anybody has any question, please feel free to ask. But go out there, do great things, and be a great ambassador of the MSAP program. Thank you to Hakan, Joe, Paul. It's just so many names I can't even remember. But I mean, what can I say? Monell, I love this program. And like I told Joe, I can't wait to make my billions and come back and say MSAP will be kept forever. That's the dream. All right. Thank you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to say that was one of the most authentic, unapologetically genuine and necessary messages I've heard in a long time. And I sit in a lot of spaces with a lot of phenomenal orators, but I deeply appreciate, I think, the unadulterated honesty with which you delivered what is really necessary to be competitive in this global knowledge economy. I would like to respectfully ask you if you would consider that perhaps on par with ego, so I'm going to nudge you a little bit here, that it also be enough humility to understand your self-awareness needs to grow. Because we also confront very loud egoists who are dangerously unaware, so unself-aware. So I wanted to know what your opinion was about that in encouraging students and emerging scholars to learn how to balance that enthusiasm of ego with the wherewithal to know when to be quiet, listen, reflect, and internalize growth.
Yeah, no, great question. And I didn't ask your name, sorry.
Skylar Walks.
Skylar. Yeah, thank you for the question, Skylar. And that's why, as I shared, ego like fire is a tool. The interesting thing is that it's one of those words that just has such strong connotation every time people think about it. And so if it's helpful, I tell people, just call it positive ego. And the reason why I'm saying that is because a positive ego is just neither trying to be falsely modest to please people, neither is it trying to put itself down. And neither is it also trying to say it is something that it is not. It just is. The danger with humility is, and I like positive ego over humility, because in positive ego, you have humility. But the danger with the word humility is that, interestingly, it naturally pushes and gets, if you're somebody like me who came from a background where you didn't have a foundation, it's just going to get you to always be hiding. And so what I want to Skylar's point, what all of us need to keep in mind when I say ego, I'm referring to positive ego. Because positive ego is also what makes you have a sense of gratitude. It's when you could hear me talking and I mentioned so many names. I've mentioned probably Hakan's name in so many more places than he himself he will care for. Positive ego, embedded in positive ego, is also the humility, right? It's also the humility to know that, okay, there's probably a reason why this is not working. I need to go to somebody to find out what and learn. And so what I want you to keep in mind when we say ego, for all of us here, is ego that is just is. Freud, what's his name? Sigmund Freud, the psychiatrist, he came up with that term, right? The ego and the self. But ego is really having a sense of strong self and confidence in who you are, not berating yourself and not berating another. That's what we need to keep in mind. I want all of you to have a strong sense of positive ego. And that's what I want to emphasize. And honestly, if you have a negative ego, because it's a tool, nobody will want to be around you though. I promise you. Nobody will want to teach you. Nobody will want to call you to come and, well, if I had a negative ego, I don't think Paul is a very accomplished scientist. He's not calling me, he's not giving me the time of the day. And so thank you for alerting that. That's an interesting point, and I hope we can all keep in mind. But my dictionary will still choose positive ego over any other word. Yeah, have a positive sense of self, believe in yourself, and also believe in the brilliance of the people who have gone beyond you, and always be willing to learn and get better. Yeah. More questions? Oh.
So you came to Africa, and one of the things you did is come here to learn out, and that's wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank us for being smart enough to attract you. What was it like living in West Philadelphia? Did you learn something about life from West Philadelphia? I've lived here for 50-some years now. It is my neighborhood, and I love Monell, but I also love West Philadelphia. I'd like to hear what you thought about that.
No, great question. I think Dr. Burcham, right? Gary, yeah, I remember your name. So, I love my time in Philly overall. To the point that, after doing my master's, after doing my undergrad, I also did a master's here. And Penn has a program called, I think it's still there, the MonellCenter for Community Partnerships. And we used to go to Sayre High School. I hope Sayre is still there. I spent all my undergrad years, volunteering at Sayre, teaching the high school students. I just loved it. I really, really loved it. I could learn a lot. One of the things that probably has helped me, and I share this with, my friends who are Africans and, who come back straight from Ghana and these places straight as international students. I tell them, stop thinking like a Ghanaian and start thinking globally. Desire to meet other people and learn from their cultures. What makes them them? Where are they coming from? And I still have this experience. I mean, he went on to go to Princeton, and there was this, brilliant guy who was also in the volunteer program that I was in at Penn. At the time, he was a high school student, and then I was a college student at Penn. And we're in the MonellCenter program, and we're both volunteering at, Sayre. And one of the things I found fascinating was just their backgrounds and the stories that they carried with them. To me, it made my upbringing pale in comparison. I mean, if you're having people that are growing up in very tough backgrounds in terms of gun violence and a lot of these things, people that their parents are still in jail, people that it really humbled me and gave me extreme perspective. Because in my mind, I'm like, all I ever had to worry about was growing up without electricity and water and running water. Well, that's hard, but I grew up with a two-parent household. My parents are loving. I enjoy the childhood where when it rains, you just strip yourself naked and you just start running in the rain. I never had to worry about somebody shooting me. And that was the thing I enjoyed about my time in West Philly, living living here in the city. And I struggled with how most of my Penn friends never left the Penn bubble. We called it the Penn bubble. We just stay within so tightly. And the MonellCenter, even though it's at Penn, struggled so much to get students to volunteer in the program. But I was very fortunate that they gave me a shot to participate in that program and meet incredible people. Some of them are still my lifelong friends. They still text me while I was coming here. I tested it then we should catch up. So it was I think for me, it was the people. It was the people. And I also love taking walks to youth sciences. I was very bummed to learn that youth sciences is no more. So yeah, that was really kind of I used to go on walks around the cemetery, that area, and I'll take the walk down to youth sciences. And then I'm like, okay, let me go check youth sciences. I get there and they're like, there's no more youth science. Everything is St. Joseph. That's not nice. So yeah, but I really, really enjoyed my time here and all the people that made the experience. So yeah. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,